What's going on, everybody? Scott Hogan coming at you. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today we're going to go over the number I was actually the most excited about with the Mevo Plus to get in my launch monitor, and that's angle of attack. Hey everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you everybody so much for the feedback that you've had on this series about using your at-home launch monitor. As always, click that like button. Make sure you share it if you have anybody that you think might be able to use this information. Unless you're trying to take money off them on the golf course, then I guess don't share it with them. But leave a comment down below. That really does help. And as always, when you click that subscribe button, make sure you click the bell next to it so you get notified when we have more of these videos coming out. So that really does help us out. And as always, appreciate the feedback. Thank you so much. All right, so today we're going to talk about angle of attack, which in my opinion is the third most important number that you should be looking at. This is one of the club numbers that we actually get on the Mevo Plus, but it's something you need to pay attention to in general because it really has a huge effect on how far the golf ball goes. I said it earlier, I really was excited to get this number with the Mevo Plus because when I used to teach and I had my X2s and then I taught with TrackMan for a while, I used to try to guess the numbers and what I thought they were going to be. And this would be the one that I got wrong most consistently. I couldn't always get a good, a feel for the angle of attack sometimes with people's swings. It was tough to feel because it is a 3D number. There's a lot that goes into it, rather than just if you hit down or hit up. I mean, that's what it's measuring, but there's other parts of the swing that are going to matter for it. There's parts of your setup that are going to matter for it. So we're going to get into that today, take a deep dive, and try to help you improve it. All right, so we're talking angle of attack here. We are going to be talking about how much down or up are you hitting on the ball. That's essentially what angle of attack is measuring. If you're using a radar unit, that's the data you're getting, or if you're using a photo unit that tracks that for you. So angle of attack, let's just talk a little bit about what it is first. Essentially, it's just the way you're approaching into the golf ball. So I use this hula hoop a lot when I'm working with students to demonstrate this. If my swing is coming down on this arc, the angle that it's going down or up is what we're measuring at the moment the ball and club meet. Now, what do you want from your angle of attack? Well, it's actually going to vary based on the club, it's going to vary based on the lie that you're in, and it's going to vary based on the shot that you're trying to hit. So for a standard shot, the time that we're usually talking most about angle of attack, we're usually talking about it with the driver. Now we can go into it in other scenarios, but let's talk about it with the driver today. If you're interested in more, we'll do more with the downward stuff on irons and chips and stuff like that. But let's talk a little bit about the driver. Now, this ball is teed up. So when we have a golf ball that is on a tee, our goal is not to hit down on it, because the reason you like to get down at the ball is usually because you're going to try to dig it out or you're trying to get the ball to go up in the air. We already have it in the air. It's teed up. We're ready to roll. So our goal here isn't to get it airborne necessarily. It is to launch it. We are trying to launch it at a good angle that's going to maximize distance, and it's going to maximize our rollout when we get the ball all the way out into the fairway, hopefully. So if we're trying to launch it, our goal becomes more to hit it more level off the tee, or if anything, we actually want to hit up on the driver. So we're trying to launch this ball up. With new drivers, new golf balls, you're typically looking for a launch angle that is going to be up in the 13, 14, 15 degrees, maybe even a little bit higher if you're at a slower swing speed. You're trying to get that ball to go up, and so it can get in the air and have some flight. Now, if you have a really, really fast swing speed, you might be able to get a little bit lower launch, but that's for another day. We can talk about that. So how do we get that thing to launch up is really what we're looking at. And how do we do that? We're trying to hit up on the ball more. Rory McIlroy, a couple months ago, did a little clinic. He did it on TV. He talked about his attack angle, and he said that his attack angle when he's really trying to bomb it was about 6 or 7 degrees up, and when he's just kind of hitting his normal shot, it's about 2 to 3 up. So just for a little reference there, obviously he's trying to hit the ball really, really, really far. So What can we do to influence our attack angle? Well, again, using our hula hoop, there's a couple of things that we can do right before we ever get our setup or get everything going. So when I take my setup here, if I just had the ball in the middle of the stance and I had this hula hoop right here, and this is representing the bottom of my golf swing, you can see I'm coming down, and I would be coming slightly down into the golf ball if I had the ball positioned in my stance here. Now, if I were to just move my stance back, okay, where the ball is more forward in the stance, look at how that affects where we're at on the arc. Okay, now we're going to be, by the time we get to that ball, we're going to be starting to ascend a little bit into it. Now, we're not looking for like a major amount. 6 degrees is not a lot. If you don't, remember, get a protractor out and see how much that really is. It's not a lot of, upward angle to the eye, but it's going to feel like a lot as we swing it. So we can move it forward. The only thing I would caution is as you move it forward, it does become a little easier to hit it on the bottom of the club. So you do have to be a little bit careful with that. The other thing we can do is in our setup, you see a lot of drivers of the golf ball, they start getting themselves tilted where their head drops behind the ball. We call that a reverse K position. Their body gets tilted where this would be kind of like the left side or the straight side of the K, and then it would go and make a K shape with my body and my leg. That's something you can do. Now, again, a word of caution there. You don't want to overdo that because the ultimate goal in our swing and the way our body likes to work is we like to have our joints stacked on top of each other. That's the safest and most effective way to swing a club. So if we start tilting too much and my joints get out of whack, I'm not lined up anymore, you just have to be worried about some other things physically that could happen. So you just want to do that just slightly. You don't want to overdo that reverse case setup. It's going to cause you some issues. So that's going to be the first part of how we can start influencing our attack angle. So what I wanted to do, let's just try it here for a sec. I'm going to hit a drive here. And I'm going to get the ball back in my stance a little bit. And we've got Flight Scope Mevo running here. Okay. And there's a drive. We're going to look at that attack angle. And that was -3. Okay. So that was 3.2 down on that shot. Okay. Now just making that small setup adjustment where we're going to move the ball more forward. I'm not going to do too much of the tilt. Let's see what we get. By just doing that, I'm going to try to make the same swing. That changed it to 3.4 up. So by just making that small change, I didn't even do a whole lot of the tilt. I was able to move my angle of attack 6 degrees up. That's a big deal. So doing that part is going to have a huge influence. Now, I wish it was always just as easy as doing a little bit of setup work, but sometimes our swing is going to determine what that angle of attack is. So if I tee up another ball here, okay? If I tee up another golf ball, if we are looking to be more on the upward side of things, okay? We have to think about our swing more from this angle. And if I took my hula hoop again, if I had a swing that's more vertical, you can see the angle that I'm going down is automatically going to be sharper. Now, it doesn't always mean your angle of attack is going to read in a upward or a downward fashion, but it definitely promotes that downward hit at it. And a lot of times you can actually confuse the launch monitor swinging this way because you actually hit the ground. You're going so sharply down at it, you hit before you get to the ball and it bounces and the club is actually traveling up into the ball because it bounced off the ground. That can happen. Now, the one thing we want to know is if you're not hitting the ground too soon, you're making decent contact, we can adjust our attack angle by the plane our swing is on. If I have it more vertical, that is going steeply down. If I start to flatten out, that is going to be a more shallow plane where eventually it's really easy to go up into the golf ball. So, I mean, it's not a revelation, I would say, to know that it's better to swing more from the inside of the ball. If you watch my Sunday rounds, you know that that's something I'm always trying to work on too. But it is something that can be a little bit of a challenge. So what's the best drill that I find that can make the biggest difference in somebody's angle of attack, especially with the driver? Well, we have to exaggerate what's going on. We have to get the feeling, and we have to go farther than we want to go to make sure our body and our mind recognizes what's happening. So if I'm going to do this, let's say I'm somebody that's more over the top, hitting down on it. Let's just do an example here. I'm going to try and make sure I hit the ball first. Okay, so that's that over the top move. -6 down. Okay, why is that bad? Well, it's bad because it's going to cause the ball to spin more. You're going to hit it really short, and you're hitting a fade. It's going to curve a lot. So what can we do? Well, what I have players work on is they bring it back. We have to literally get them to feel the club being flatter behind them so it can swing more along that circle. So what I have them do is literally put the club on the ground and get the feeling of dragging the club into the ball. And when they do that, finishing up high. The way this works is you have two choices. You can either swing the club high, going low, or you can go lower, going high into it. Okay? You're not really doing kind of a middle in terms of how we think about it and how things feel. So what I'd rather see, especially with that driver, is that low swinging high into it. And then what we'll do is work on actually making some swings where we swing over the top of it, and then we try to take that feel into a drive. And that one was 3.2 up. That's more what I would like to see, and then we would go from there. Okay, so changing your attack angle, very difficult. One of the reasons I was so excited for the unit, I mentioned that earlier. So I would think it's something worth looking at if you're trying to hit the ball farther and seeing if you can get that spin rate to go down so you can launch it higher, hit it farther. So again, something we have to look at. Mewo Plus tends to read high spin, so pay attention to that part a little bit, but mainly look at the attack angle. That seems to be right on the money, so something you're going to want to look at. And on your other launch monitors, if you don't have an angle of attack reading, but you're getting that spin data, just look at your launch and see if you can make the spin come down. That's also going to be a good indicator that, hey, maybe I'm doing this a little bit better. You want it to launch higher with lower spin. That's kind of the equation to hitting it farther. So any questions about it, please let me know in the comments down below. Thanks everybody for tuning in, and appreciate the suggestions about it. And as always, click the subscribe button if you're not a subscriber already. We'll have more with how to use your at-home equipment to improve. Don't miss out on it. Thanks everybody for watching. We'll catch you in the next one. Peace.